Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood, and you're joining us on a very special day as we are here with the founder, creator, I don't know what all the official titles are, of Rokfin, a platform I've been have been on and pushing hard the last year and a half. Martin Floriani. Martin, how are you doing today?
Doing great. It's awesome to be here with you, Graham. I love your show.
Well, thanks, man. And thank you for taking the time to be on the show. As I was explaining to the audience, you know, it's rare you get this person as the head of a, a platform that's going to come on to discuss it. And first of all, I need to confess to you. When you first came to me almost 2 years ago now, spring of 2019, and several others, people like Ron Placone, and said, hey, come on the channel. Ron and I were on tour through Texas and we had lunch. And, as a guy who used to, I was a co-producer of the Los Angeles Podcast Festival for 6 years. And so I had all these tech companies would come to me and say, oh, we got this new tech platform and it's going to be awesome. And we'd be like, all right, if you guys want to give us a sponsorship check, we'll take it. And most of them then wouldn't get their next round of funding and they'd be done. So I said to Ron, I go, hey man, if these guys want to, give us a little money to be on their platform, we should take it. They'll probably be out of business by the summer. I said that.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, I understand as a new platform, you get that. So I kind of understood that that's the arena we're in. So I don't hold it against you, Graham.
well, and you said all this stuff about that your guys' content is way more valuable than what you're getting paid on platforms like YouTube and everything. And I was like, yeah. And then you're like crypto. And I'm like, oh, now I don't know what this guy's talking. Sure. Give me your digital money. That's great, Martin. Do unicorns use it? Like I was just like, like whatever. And now, dude, I get it. And you and I had we've had several conversations, and you and your staff, like Jaime and Scott specifically. Scott is sort of he's helped teach all of us like how to convert our RAE into whatever Ethereum and Bitcoin and cat, like I'm out of debt, dude. I am out of debt and using crypto. And now I'm building up a crypto portfolio, and one of the conversations you and I had was after Joe Rogan did his $100 million Spotify deal. You said that was way undervalued. I doubt Rogan's complaining after $100 million, but you pointed out to me, you said, Graham, the minute they announced Rogan signed this deal, their stock went up or their value went up like $5 billion.
Yes. Yep.
And I was like, whoa. And now that, a year ago, the RAE token was trading at 17, 18 cents. It went up to like 50, 60 cents. And we were all doing backflips. And now today, as of this recording, it's about $4.50, somewhere in there.
Yep.
And I'm seeing like, you're paying me roughly the same amount of tokens that I get based on my content and likes and all that stuff. I'm getting the same amount of tokens, but a year ago they were worth not that much. And now I'm going, oh, I get it. And we're all owners in this platform. So that was my sort of confession and apology at the time of this interview. But I really, first of all, tell our audience why you came up with this and how you came up with this, like your kind of history and background and why you wanted to create this platform, because it's so amazing, especially now, the censorship that's going to be happening. I mean, it's just like we're in kind of a crazy history and a part of history. So explain to us how you kind of came up with this idea and integrating crypto and all this other stuff that most of us don't get, or I did.
And I want you to stop me if you don't understand what I'm saying, you want to dig in, like just stop me. I love kind of going into the nuances, and I really don't like talking in jargon. So if you ever catch me there, stop me and make sure you understand. But essentially, digital networks rule our life. They're more and more ruling our life. They're ruling commerce. They're ruling communication channels. They rule our life, these digital networks. And the value in the network, there's right now the current financial model of a P&L statement, which is a profit and loss statement that a company has. They have a cash flow statement, and they have a balance sheet. the current model to determine value in a marketplace, there's not a good financial vehicle to distribute the value to the participants of networks. And
meaning content creators.
Yeah. So, I mean, networks rule our life, right? Facebook's a network. Uber's a network. Airbnb's a network. Amazon's a network. eBay's a network. So more and more of these networks rule our life, right? They're really, in the way they accrue value, they're able to purchase companies. They're able to grow exponentially because of some of the characteristics around how digital networks work. And so, when we talk about the RAE ecosystem, I'm talking specifically about like a marketplace network where there's suppliers on one side, the content creators, and then users and consumers on the other side that are consuming the product, right? And so when you think about marketplace networks, Uber's a marketplace network.
Okay.
Right? Because they have drivers on one side, they're providing the service, and then consumers, people on the demand side. Airbnb is a marketplace network. You have the people who are putting up their houses, and then you got the people that are renting their houses, and Airbnb sits in the middle. Amazon is with their merchant services, right, or with their marketplace, right? You have people selling their products and then people buying, and Amazon sits in the middle. Well, these platforms accrue an immense amount of value because of how there's not a really good, efficient vehicle to distribute value back to the suppliers of the network. And so they game the system to help benefit them the most. And so when you gave up the example of Joe Rogan being undervalued, is because there's not really a good financial vehicle for Joe Rogan to negotiate against to get his full value on Spotify, right? And so he gets 100 million, and the stock, the company is accruing all the stock. They have the stock, so they accrue all this value, this future value moving forward, because they know the world says, wow, that's really valuable to Spotify, more than Joe Rogan will ever knew, right? And this deal is great. And so essentially, it's just not a good financial vehicle to distributing value back to Joe Rogan. And that ends up hurting the suppliers of the network. And so the whole ethos, the whole thought process around the RAE ecosystem is by introducing this new financial vehicle, RAE token, which is very grounded into the economics of how the network works. By introducing it and by delivering value on it, what happens is the experience for suppliers ends up being 10x better, right? I would say that, I don't know if you think it's a 10x better experience than YouTube in terms of how you get paid, ends up being 10x better. And because of that, more Graham Elwoods come to the network. More people come to the network. And then in the way the marketplace networks work is they work in exponentials. So as more Graham Elwoods come, what happens to the network? It grows. There's more people that decide, hey, I'm going to subscribe. And as there's more people that subscribe, there's more scarcity in the RAE token, which then there becomes more demand for the RAE token. And so then people like you are the beneficiaries of that growth of the network, and you're not locked outside of its value. So I know that's a little technical, and something, but I'm happy to dig in from there.
Well, no, I'm so glad the way you explain it, because using the Uber model is like, oh wow, yeah, we are in the same way that, like, I've on this show, I've advocated for Uber. There was that bill on the books in California that was better for Uber and Lyft drivers, and how those big corporations make all this money off of their labor. And in the same way that YouTube makes a lot of money off of my labor of posting content. They make a lot of money. And by comparison, they're giving me pennies on the dollar based on what my content is worth. And, I put a lot of time into this show. I have an editor. I have an assistant. I mean, I have to pay these folks. They do a lot of work. I mean, every video that drops, there's all these credits and all this stuff that has to work. And it generates revenue for Google, the owners of YouTube. And then I get, and then they demonetize me for this or that, or, I'm against war, so they're going to restrict my video or whatever. And you have really seen the value and the fact that you created a way to where it's it's more, you're compensating the people that are doing the labor in a way more fair way. I mean, it's like, you know, without content creators, you don't have a platform, and you realize that, rather than these other big companies kind of take this attitude of, you should be lucky that I'm allowing you to drive for Uber or post your content on YouTube, is sort of their sort of capitalist overlord way of viewing this. And your thing was like, no, it's about your content, how valuable it is. And you and I had a conversation, maybe, I can't remember, a year ago or something. And you were like, Graham, the more exclusive content you put on our channel, the better. And I was like, okay. And I'm starting to get that. And then as I'm seeing the subscriptions and the amount of RAE and then the value of the RAE going up, it made it sort of a no-brainer when I just finished my documentary of going to Russia. And I was like, well, eventually I'll just put it up on YouTube for free. And then I was like, no, I'm not. It's going to stay behind a paywall because it's valuable content and it's driving people. I'm also still putting it on Patreon, but I mean, slowly, I was like, Rokfin's going to overtake all of this. I mean, in terms of just me as a content creator and what my revenue streams are and how I pay for that. I can see it. I can see the horizon now. And a year and a half ago, when I first started covering the Epstein stuff and started seeing some heavy censorship and demonetization from YouTube, I was like, well, Rokfin's my backup plan for when they deplatform, if they deplatform me. I hope they don't, but, and it happened in like March or April when I started doing my first premium, first live stream on Rokfin, was because the day prior they cut my stream midway through because they didn't like what I was saying. They just cut it. They just boom. And that drove a lot of people to Rokfin.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I want to discuss, is not only do I like the pay model, and as Rokfin is going through the roof, is you guys aren't censoring us.
Yeah. No, I really hate the censorship from my ethos. You know, and I don't have to agree with people's opinions or whatnot, but to me, it's like even if you were saying something that I would consider to be a mistake, like, it's important that humans can make mistakes, like, for the creative process. Like, I need to like kind of spitball with you. I need to be wrong sometimes to get to a better spot, right? And if you're just going to clamp down on everyone's speech because you can't even think this, to me, it's like we don't get to better spots, right? And so for me, from the creative process with our team, like, all right, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but this is where I'm going, right? And so I understand it might be a little bit different around journalism. You got to be careful, you know, like, you don't want to, you know, like there's different dynamics there, but like I just don't like, I really, the whole censorship stuff really does scare me, Graham, from, you know, I like to be in a creative world, and I think it just starts to cramp on creativity. And I understand the creative process for people, for commentators, for people who are talking things. And it's important for you guys to be not having to feel like, ooh, I can't even ask this question, or I can't even go here. Right. And so, you know, so yeah, that stuff from my ethos really does concern me, and I don't have to agree with everybody. And it's an absurd kind of world where we all have to align and agree on the same thing for us to talk. And you're not allowed to talk this or that. It, to me, is I don't like it from a branding perspective. Now, that being said, we got to be, you know, vigilant. Like, I don't want the Rokfin brand to be associated with Nazis.
Right.
Right? You know, but you also got to be careful. It's like, well, someone said this 4 years ago, so I'm going to label them a white nationalist. Right. It's like,
right.
This, you know, like I sometimes talk to people on the left, and they're now being, you know, so it's like, you know, the right traditionally was censored, but now it's like they're going to be coming back for the left, you know? And so it's scary for me from that perspective, from a platform. We got to take we just got to be really pragmatic and smart about how we do things.
Well, you guys have done a pretty good job. And you also, you know, you have a curated, you know, list of content providers. You don't just let anybody sign up, which I actually think is a good thing, because you can sort of create the environment. And it's, you bring up a really good point, because obviously what happened 2 weeks ago at the Capitol was pretty scary, pretty horrifying. There was people with automatic weapons. Some of them had like, neo-Nazi paraphernalia on them. That's not saying all Trump supporters are Nazis. Mm-hmm. And, the people that broke in and did stuff are, okay, those were crimes and that needs to be prosecuted. But I get worried that then they're going to call anybody a domestic terrorist. So like the Sunrise Movement has a peaceful protest and they, do a sit-in at the Capitol building. Oh, they're domestic terrorists. Black Lives Matter is blocking a street because they don't want unarmed black men to get shot anymore. Oh, they're domestic terror. Like anybody, and even just like, somebody on your platform, like Jason Burmis, who, I had him on my show the day of the Capitol siege because he was there. And Jason is a little more conservative than I am. And, some people in my chat were like, oh, Graham, this guy's a Trump or Nazi. I was like, wait a minute now. Hold on. That's a big leap.
Yeah.
To go, somebody who's wearing like a Camp Auschwitz shirts. Okay, they're saying they're a Nazi. It's pretty clear to someone that's like, well, Graham, not everybody there was angry and violent. And some of them were just there because of economics or whatever. And so like Jason Burmis shouldn't get censored or deplatformed or called a Nazi or anything like that. And it's like, that is a dangerous thing to go down. And I love the fact that Rokfin, there's been nothing. There's been no, and I've put videos out there, I do a lot of stuff calling out the, sex trafficking, pedophile. I mean, it's pretty brutal shit I'm covering sometimes. And I call out the war machine, and you don't do that. You don't censor me, man. It's like, and I see it in real time. Like my producer, she was not very political at all. And she's been sort of radicalized working on my shows because she's like, Graham, I'm uploading a video talking about the war in Yemen, and she watches it get demonetized as it's uploading. And she's just like,
yeah. Well, so kind of coming back to the economics of that, right? Mm-hmm. So YouTube can feel safe to do that because the way the structure is. And so looking at a marketplace like YouTube, the creators as a whole have all the power, but individually they have none. And really they're all acting individually on YouTube, right? So YouTube is able to play them off of each other, and they actively work to commoditize Graham Elwood. So when Graham Elwood's video is up, there's 10 other, maybe similar viewpoints that they can now push people to over here. And that's kind of the nature of a marketplace network from a consumer side, but really you get stripped of all the economic benefits. And so when a platform is starting, the first 100 people on YouTube, the first 1,000 creators on YouTube that were posting great content, they got none of the value when YouTube sold to Google for whatever, $1.6-2 billion. None of it, right? Now, 2 years ago, YouTube was valued at $200 billion. It's probably, given all the lockdown, how much more digital we are, I wouldn't be surprised if it's worth $400 billion. But you don't get to tap into that. No creator gets to tap into that. That's separate. That's our golden jewel. And to me, as a whole, YouTube is nothing without the channels. Nothing. Zero. It doesn't exist without the people actually posting the content. And so for me, the way I say the next 10 years, it's all about the creators. And it doesn't necessarily even mean creators, content creators, but it could be suppliers, the people who are creating the value on Uber. It's the people creating the value, selling their stuff on Amazon. It's the people that are the supply side on marketplaces that are providing that value, because they are helping contribute to a marketplace network which has extreme value. And there's not a good financial vehicle if you just look at cash. If I just paid you cash,
right?
If I just paid you cash from day one, you would be or have earned the fraction of, and you're worth so much more than just cash. Because once I pay you cash, you're cashed out of the future value of the network by its very definition. You have no optionality with cash. So you don't have the option to participate in any future value of the network. You're done if I pay you in cash. And I can't pay you in stock. It's not a good vehicle to distribute value on a network. It's too transactional. I don't know what Graham Elwood's going to do, and I can't do it for every supplier. So that's not a really good financial vehicle. So what we've looked at is the whole mechanics and strip to understand like how how this thing is built. And we developed this new financial vehicle that we think is the most efficient vehicle, right? This is the most efficient vehicle to distribute value to the people that provide it. And by doing it, everybody wins. We win, you win, and the consumer wins. And so that's really that's kind of the thought process behind RAE, and why we think that I always told you that I think you're undervalued on YouTube, is because I understand your place in a broader network, and it's not just the cash you bring in. There's something, it's much, a marketplace networks operate in a much more dynamic fashion. And so, anyway, so that's kind of the gist. And we're on a tangent there, but
it's such a great point. I when you put it in those terms, man, you really break it down. You know, as Google and YouTube's value goes to 200, 300, 400 billion or whatever it is now, I don't see a penny of that. But if Rokfin's value goes up to $100 billion, I'll see that, because the RAE token will be trading at $2,000 a token or whatever it'll be, which means that would be huge. I
mean, you're not necessarily a stockholder in Rokfin, but as the RAE network builds, you get that, you accrue that value with RAE if you decide to partake in it. Well, the beautiful thing is Graham, you could cash out all your tokens tomorrow. I don't control a cent of that. That's right. All you. You could decide to keep them all. That's all you. The autonomy that Graham Elwood has is important for us. And for us, we look at it as the margin, the opportunity there. You know, Jeff Bezos, he says something. He goes, he said something like, their margin is our opportunity. And so he always brings things down to super low margin, and he puts a lot of pressure on the creators on that side. So I've kind of almost flipped it, and I think it's like how we can, the margin of how we can more effectively pay suppliers. If we can treat the creators better, the customers will win in the end. But if you're grinding to the bone, and the creators are trying to figure out a way to make it work, and then they got to worry about X, Y, and Z, are they going to really create great content for people, or are they going to be distracted? You know, though that's the way the lens I look at it is to become more of a creator-centric country, world. Like, by doing that, we're going to spark so much of a better existence, because people can actually focus on their craft and make it beautiful, great, and think about it, because they're not worried about, you know, the next, you know, how am I going to pay the next rent, because YouTube is really, you know, putting the screws on me, or Amazon's really putting the screws on me, or Uber's not giving me what was getting before, because I've been commoditized down to its, you know, the very thinnest margin. So that's kind of the different, we flip it. Like, my mentality is flipping. No. I'm gonna take care of Graham, and I'm gonna trust Graham's gonna be taking care of the consumer, right? And if we can do that, now everybody wins.
Yeah, because if my Rokfin channel blows up and I've got 100,000, 200,000 followers or whatever paying subscriptions, then that helps me. It makes the RAE more valuable, which helps you. It helps everybody on the channel. That's the other thing too that I love, is like, if some big name person, like, it was great when Jimmy came over. It's great that Lee Camp is now going to post, and Whitney Webb and all these people. But like, if a Joe Rogan were to come to Rokfin, it would help all of us. It wouldn't like, Joe Rogan's going to diminish us now because he's the big. It's like, no, all of our RAE will go through the roof. It'd be like, yeah, dude, come on the channel. Like, it'd be. We're all seeing it. Like, I've talked to Ron Placone, I've talked to Nico House, I've talked to some of the other folks, and I'm like, man, you know, this is the future. And before we answer some questions, I just want to see, because what you're talking about is I've really spent the last 6 or 7 months learning more just about crypto in general, because I didn't know anything about it. And as I get more knowledgeable about it, and I see how sort of revolutionary Bitcoin specifically is, in terms of it's empowering people, but also this specific payment structure that you're doing for content creators on Rokfin through the RAE token. How do you see the future? Because now we're seeing, I mean, one of the reasons Bitcoin has gone through the roof, which Ethereum, and which I think has contributed to RAE and all these altcoins coming up. And because all this institutional money is coming in now, people are really seeing it. It's not just like hacker, outlier, you know, digital tech people, which I think probably fueled the 2017 surge of Bitcoin. Now it's like real money's coming in.
Yeah.
How do you see this next couple years of not just, I mean, and well, let me ask you this question. So how do you see crypto and Bitcoin in general the next couple years? And then as like Bitcoin, everyone's predicting it's going through the roof. How will that directly affect the cost or the price of the value of the RAE token?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a million different factors on RAE. So RAE can go up, can go down. I'm not going to speculate on what RAE is going to do or not, but I can tell you that from a crypto standpoint, blockchain is, and I say this and some of my friends laugh, right? But I'm like, blockchain is, the invention of blockchain is probably one of the most important inventions of the last 1,000 years. And I say that because I understand how digital networks rule our life and rule communication and rule commerce. And it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And to more effect, and what blockchain does is it rewards value on a network in this super dynamic and creative way that people have never experienced. So, you know, it has all these social implications that I would say, Graham, are all positive. They're really very, very positive implications moving forward. So, you know, from that standpoint, you know, the world's kind of crazy around us and we see that. But for me, the way I look at it is like blockchain and Bitcoin and, you know, what we're doing with RAE token, it's the way through. It's the way to take power out of the hands of people that, you know, aren't necessarily providing the real value, you know, or power hungry people trying to exert control. Like, it's really just new, accountable, transparent methodology for people to interact. Specifically, obviously in Bitcoin, it's around, there's this value, like the store of value, but it has these profound implications. So I think obviously the future is bright, and that is the future.
Well, it's funny. I looked, as you were saying this, I looked to my phone because I got a bunch of notifications. Several people have now tipped me on Rokfin. I got a new subscriber. So like, as you were talking,
nice.
People are contributing. So I know, I really appreciate, Martin, you explaining all of this with Rokfin and RAE. I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and Rokfin.com/Graham Elwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at GrahamElwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.